Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I hope everybody's doing good today. Today, I know a lot of people have talked about this interview that Brad Garlinghouse did with Michael Arrington and this other guy, I call him the leather jacket guy, this was TechCrunch's Disrupt blockchain event. And I have never seen an interview that was as obviously anti-Ripple and XRP as I've seen. And I was even further shocked by watching this interview at the way that Michael Arrington appeared to act towards it. And I realized that Michael Arrington has kind of an eccentric personality in a way, but some of the things that he said, while to put Brad Garlinghouse in a very uncomfortable situation on that stage, it seemed kind of bizarre. Now maybe they have that kind of friendship, so I'm willing to give Michael Arrington the benefit of the doubt on this. But the guy in the leather jacket, I mean, he should be ashamed of himself. This guy was obviously a pro-Bitcoin guy, one of these pro, Bitcoin maximalist type guys. But I think that it's important. Now, I want you all, I'm not going to play the video because I never play videos on here, but I did go through and summarize these guys. The crazy part, it wasn't just the guy in the leather jacket, it was also Michael Arrington, and it was almost like he was intentionally trying to rain on Brad Garlinghouse's parade. And so I wanted to go through, these guys hit almost every attack that I've ever heard having to do with Ripple and XRP. But I'm going to go through them also to show you there was one thing in this there was one thing that was brought up during this interview that nobody watching, nobody on the stage, not the guy in the leather jacket, nobody could refute. And that is what you need to get out of this. You also need to get out of this that we are the enemy in the crypto world. XRP is the enemy for two reasons. Doesn't matter what you do in life. If you're on top, you're going to be viewed the enemy. And XRP, even though it's not literally on top in terms of market cap on coin market cap, they all know, everybody in the cryptocurrency sphere, they all know that Ripple is the best digital asset that has ever been created. And they know that it's faster than all of them and it's more scalable than all. They know that it has the best team behind pushing XRP. Everyone out there knows that. And that's the reason that they're all coming at XRP and Ripple, is for that reason. Anytime you're on top, doesn't matter what you do, somebody's coming after you. And XRP and Ripple, there are more people coming after Ripple and XRP than any other digital asset. And I'm going to go through a few of those things, but then I'm going to show you the silver lining, what is the obvious silver lining. The first, and I'm not doing these in the order that they attacked, but it was really bizarre, some of the things they were trying to attack Brad Garlinghouse about. The first one that I made a note of is that the leather jacket guy literally attacked Brad Garlinghouse for giving money to charity. The Donors Choose thing came up, and he made some comment which was so ridiculous, like, yeah, but you gave charity just because you have all this XRP that you pre-mined. And it was kind of like, oh, so that completely illegitimizes the fact that we gave money to charity? Crazy. It's unbelievable that the guy would even say it. Okay, I'm moving along. Okay, now this was brought up by Michael Arrington, and I don't think that it was necessarily a stab at XRP or Ripple, but I was surprised that he brought it up. He says he more or less looked at Brad and said, well, you guys can reverse an XRP transaction if you decide you want to. And that's one of the FUD items that we've heard of several times, is the idea, and that's one of the things that many of the Bitcoin maximalists and people like that will say, is that, oh, Ripple at their will can just reverse an XRP transaction. And so it's very centralized in that way, and it's not decentralized at all, because they can change anything they want at any time they want. And it's completely not true. And I want to mention to you as well, every one of these that I'm bringing up to you, Brad Garlinghouse shot him down like he was shooting Patriot missiles. And there was nothing, after he shot each thing down, Leather Jacket Boy said nothing. He had nothing to say, because he knew that everything he was throwing was illegitimate. He, of course, brought up, oh, what if they say Ripple is a security? And Brad Garlinghouse, who looked extremely confident, said, it's not something we're worried about, because we know we're not. More or less, in so many words, he said, well, what are we securing? It was a very valid point, and that's the problem that anyone, including the SEC, would ever have. Okay, so XRP is a security. Now, what does it secure? And nobody can answer that question, because it secures nothing. And that's the reason that I'm so confident. It's the reason Brad Garlinghouse is so confident. It's the reason it's a non-issue. Of course, the first thing out of the guy's mouth, like as you could expect, is, oh, but XRP is pre-mined and centralized. And then, of course, Brad Garlinghouse pointed out to him, well, yeah, Bitcoin is controlled by like 3 or 4 mining operations in China. So which one's more centralized? Then he goes on, when he started the interview, he literally said that many people think you are the devil to Brad Garlinghouse. And he literally said, are you the devil? I mean, I really couldn't believe a lot of what the guy was saying. One thing that Arrington kept pointing this out, he kept referring to the fact that Brad Garlinghouse had talking points and all this. And we all know that Brad Garlinghouse, who's a very responsible CEO, he does have talking points that he uses, that things he tries to stick very closely to being very measured in what he says. But what CEO does not? What responsible CEO does not? But I thought it was kind of weird that Arrington kept pointing this out. One thing that they both really seemed to have a beef with, it was almost as if they were poking fun at Brad about it, is they kept talking about how rich Brad was. And this is, if you remember, back in December when XRP hit $3.50 or so, they were running, it was either Forbes or Fortune, they were running articles about it. It was like the most offensive thing in the world, the idea that these Ripple guys all of a sudden were billionaires, and they were in the top 10. I think Chris Larson was in the top 10 billionaires in the world or the country. But like I've told you before it's over, these guys are going to be the richest people in the world, and Ripple will be the richest company in the history of the world. I know that's hard to believe, but that's what we're talking about, and it bugs some of these people to no end. Okay, next, and what I've always thought is kind of weird about that is Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is sitting somewhere, maybe in his bathrobe still, with sitting on a ton of Bitcoin, and they have no problem with the fact that this guy's filthy rich because he hasn't named himself. I guess if he names himself, does that all of a sudden make him the devil too? But I thought that was crazy. Then they went on to the Madonna. They went on and started talking about, how Madonna, Ripple had contributed to Madonna's charity, I believe, for Africa. And that they were really offended by that. Did you pay Madonna? Did you pay? And then Ashton Kutcher had also gone on the Ellen show to contribute to Ellen's charity. So they're really offended at the idea that Ripple is using their XRP money to give money to charities, which is also very odd. Then they went on and they started bashing, they specifically mentioned, the guy in the leather jacket specifically mentioned XRP Trump, which is a guy on Twitter that I've mentioned before, and Tiffany Hayden, who's also on Twitter. She's a single mother who got into cryptocurrencies and actually has taken care of her children by having made a wise investment in cryptocurrencies. And this arrogant idiot decides to get on here and bash and act like she's a paid shill for Ripple. I was really blown away by the whole thing. Then, so anyway, I think I hit all of the things that they hit. But now I want to go over with you and Michael Arrington is the one that brought this up. And this is why we're all here. This is the reason you and I are going to the moon. This is the reason that when you looked at all the digital assets and you listened to YouTube and you read online and you looked at Twitter and read the different things about all the different digital assets, when you discovered all of this, this is the reason you showed up at XRP. And it's something that I don't care what you've listened to, what you've read, what you've heard. I don't care if you're talking about Stellar or any of them. The one thing you will never hear anybody disagree with, and that is XRP is the fastest digital asset. Michael Arrington brought up the article that I brought up. He didn't bring up the article, but he brought up the problem that he and other hedge fund managers have. He said it is a tremendous problem hedge funds have being able to move large amounts of money. He said the banking system is a disaster, and he even mentioned SWIFT at some point and how ridiculous that it is that it's still so slow. And then he said that he moved with his hedge fund $50 million, and I've mentioned this before, $50 million in 3 seconds. And he said he moved it for 20 to 30 cents. Then he looked at the leather jacket guy and he said, that's not something that's something that you have to pay attention to. You can't ignore this. In other words, XRP is going to change the world. This is not something that you can say, oh, well, there's this other one over there. No, it's not something you can ignore. Then the leather jacket guy, he even tries to fight over that. He tries to say something over that. He says, but that was done using the Ripple protocol, not XRP. And Brad goes and corrects him and says, oh, no. He used the XRP ledger to move that $50 million in 3 seconds at 20 cents. So the leather jacket guy did not even know what he was talking about. And he's just saying it to say it, just because he already had a position that he was not going to back down from no matter what. But the point in my overall point in the first point in telling you all of that is that, yes, XRP is going to change the world because it does move so fast, and it is going to change things because it is a legitimate, real technology that can improve a problem. Brad Garlinghouse has said this 1,000 times. If there's a problem and you fix the problem, it doesn't matter if you're using a digital asset or some other technology. If you're fixing the problem with the use of XRP, so be it. If it's going to change the world and make Brad Garlinghouse rich and you rich and me rich and Ripple, the richest company in the history of the world, so be it. If it's a good technology and it fixes a problem that large, then it should make us rich. Okay, so I wanted to tell you this. I have watched Brad Garlinghouse. I've watched David Schwartz. I've seen them on Twitter. I've watched them in interviews and in debates. And one thing I've never seen anyone on any topic having to, when they are defending XRP and Ripple, I have never, ever, not one time have I seen anyone defeat them in the debate and actually walk away with a valid point. I've seen many people make up lies. I've seen them say many things that weren't true, probably knowing that they weren't true just to throw something out there and try to turn some people against Ripple and XRP. But I have never seen them ever lose a debate. And that's an important point. If I had seen that, then maybe I wouldn't be talking about XRP and Ripple all the time. But I am, and I'm doing it for a reason. Okay, there's one other thing that I wanted to bring up in this. There was a guy who, in the last couple of days, his name was Lewis Walden, at Lewis Walden 7. He had mentioned one of my videos, and he said, "I love your channel." And he says, "I'm still trying to understand how XRapid will drive the price up if it's being bought and sold immediately at the same time. It seems like it would be an even wash. What am I not getting? Trying to educate myself. I'm an XRP holder." Okay, Well, I know that the answer to that question is XRP as a liquidity solution. People, companies will be able to use XRP, and they will buy and hold XRP, and they will actually sell their XRP and make the money on the spread. I understand the concept of how we'll make money, but there was a guy that answered him, and I want to give this guy full credit. At Simon_Crypto1 answered him, and he said that go figure, XRP Trump, what that leather jacket guy called the shill. XRP Trump had given this guy the answer from the one person who can give you a better answer, and one of the probably the most genius guy involved in Ripple and XRP, David Schwartz, that I talk about a lot, had answered Trump, had given Trump this answer back in the day, or Trump had tweeted about it. And so I want you all, I'm not going to read it to you, I want you all, for those of you that have this question in your mind, okay, if XRP is going to be used as a payment, okay, it goes from point A to point B, well, isn't that a wash? And that's a perfectly legitimate question to ask. I want you to go to @Simon_Crypto1, and I want you to look at this tweet. You can read David Schwartz's answer. The question that he was given was, if banks use Ripple for payments but don't need to buy XRP, then who will buy XRP, and why will its price increase? Does it make any sense to invest in XRP? This is a person. Now, there's nothing wrong in the world with people asking legitimate questions like this. We people that are into XRP and Ripple, we're not offended by people having legitimate questions. What is offensive, and I get it all the time in my comment section, is these people that just make some one-liner comment and call me an idiot or this or that, and they don't say anything to back up what their point is. They just make a comment, and then it's a hit and run, and they take off because they know they don't have anything to back it up. But I want all of you who have ever asked yourself this question, don't listen to what I'm saying. You go and read what this guy, who is literally a genius, said about it. Okay, I want to tell you a story to make one final point. My final point that I want to make to you is the people at Ripple who I have studied a lot. These are the smartest and the best people in the world at this company. I mean, these people, there's many geniuses that are working for Ripple. These are not stupid people that just have joined Ripple and said, oh, this is a great scam that we're going to run on. These are Harvard graduates, Stanford graduates, lawyers. These are people who have advised the President of the United States that are involved in Ripple. These are not some kind of fly-by-night scamsters. That's not what we're talking about here. But what I want to make a point with the story I'm about to tell you, and that is that not only the best people in the world, but just people in general are at their best when everything is against them. It is literally Ripple against the crypto world. But what I want to tell you today is that Ripple is going to perform even better. The people at Ripple are going to perform even better because we've got all of these people against them and all of these fudsters that are trying to take XRP down. Ripple is on their game. Any interview you watch with any of the executives, these guys are sharp. They don't let these guys take them off course. They answer their questions. They don't let them drag them down and get into arguments with them. They do what they got to do. But people are at their best when everything is against them. Here's my story. When I was a kid, I was on a little league. Well, before I got on a little league baseball team, and this is how little league works to this day. But my father was asked by 3 other coaches who had already stacked their baseball teams. This is when I was 11 or 12. They had already stacked their baseball teams with the best baseball players that our league was going to have. This is when I lived in Cleveland, Tennessee at the time. My dad was he was the president of a textile company in Cleveland, Tennessee. And so he was asked to be the 4th or 5th coach, I can't remember, in this league. But when he got there, he realized that all of these guys had stacked had put all of the best players on their teams. They had the best pitchers, they had the best hitters, and they had the best fielders on their teams. And more or less, my dad was given the leftover players, and he said he could have me on his team, and I was probably a little above average. But he was going to be able to have his son, and then he had one or two other kids that were okay. But more or less, they were all laughing at us. They were gonna run the table, and they knew it. And so my dad taught me a very valuable lesson from this situation. What my dad did is because he ran a textile company, he had a warehouse, and he had space in that warehouse where he could set up a batting cage. He then went and he bought, now this today, with the way people spend money today, this seems like it would be something most teams would have. But back then it wasn't that way. Back then we didn't have baseball lessons and things like that. Nowadays everybody takes lessons if they're any good. But back then, all the idea of having a pitching machine was unheard of. Well, my father, what he did was he went to the Baltimore Orioles and bought a used pitching machine from the Baltimore Orioles and set it up as a secret location where we as a team would hit off of the pitching machine. And nobody in the league knew it. But since all the other teams had all the best players and they had the fastest pitchers, which is what it really came down to, at the time and at that age, maybe a 65-mile-an-hour pitcher would be really good, which they had. So what we did is we got in that cage and we got in that warehouse and we turned those pitching machines up to 65 or 70. And my father took a bunch of average players and we hit and we hit and we hit off of those machines until seeing a 65 to 70 mile an hour fastball was nothing. And we went on to win the entire league, and it baffled everybody in that league could not believe what we had just done, put together a ragtag bunch of kids who were average and made them above average for two reasons. Not only because of the practice and the repetition of hitting off of that speed, but because my father told us that we're not going to let people do that to us. And he inspired the team to know that they had a weapon that they could use and made us all believe that we could beat those guys. Well, these Ripple guys, they're getting attacked left and right, but you can see it in the way that they carry themselves. You can see it in their carriage, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way that Brad Garlinghouse, when he's challenged by a doofus in a leather jacket, the way he maintains his composure. These guys are sharp and they're used to taking bullets, and they've been taking them for so long that we're about to make the turn. And when we do, and when we hit this bull market, you're going to see what these guys are really made of, because XRP is the best digital asset. Ripple has the best people, and XRP will moon. I am not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am the digital asset investor. Please watch this for your entertainment only. Please subscribe and hit the like button on my channel, and I really appreciate y'all watching. And tell your friends and family to come watch as well. And I really appreciate it.